is anxiety attacks. Any of you who have had an anxiety attack know that it is one of the worst sensations you can have out of any sensation on this planet. If you've had a panic attack, you know it. It's a very surreal experience, and it makes you feel like your life is completely out of your control. So, what is a panic attack and what can we do about it? A panic attack is basically a sudden, intense episode of fear. Fear which is coming in response to a thought which you are thinking, usually a thought which is subconscious rather than conscious. Whatever thought it is that you thought caused your body to react as if it was a life or death situation. Your body was then flooded with chemicals which are associated with fight or flight. Now in that kind of a circumstance, when fear is coming in response to a thought, which doesn't necessarily pertain to the experience or your circumstance that you're in, your body is flooded with chemicals like adrenaline. Those chemicals would be normal if you were running through the woods being chased by a bear or were in some other circumstance that was a threat to your life. However, when you have an anxiety attack, most often those chemicals are being flooded through your system out of context, meaning there is no immediate threat that you can perceive to your physical well-being, but your body is registering that there is. The fact that these emotions feel as if they are out of context makes you feel crazy and makes you feel like you're losing control. And that right there is really the hallmark of the panic attack, because the sensation becomes what you start to fear. You start to fear that you're losing control, and you start to fear that you're crazy, for lack of a better word. And so that fear, on top of the previous fear that your body thinks it is in a situation of life or death, causes a level of fear to happen which is debilitating. A lot of times you will fear having other panic attacks as well, because the experience is so intensely horrible. It becomes something which inhibits you in life. You fear having another one to the degree where you may limit what you're doing socially. You structure your life in resistance to the idea of having another anxiety attack, but that fear in and of itself can cause another one to come on. And then we develop things like anxiety or panic disorders. To understand some of the symptoms which might occur to you if you are having a panic attack, I'm going to give you some of these symptoms now. If you're having a panic attack, you may experience a sense of impending doom or danger, the fear of loss of control or of death. You may begin to experience a very rapid heart rate. You may start to sweat or tremble. You may feel shortness of breath, or you may have a hyperventilation problem. You may get chills or hot flashes. You may feel nauseous. You might get abdominal cramping, chest pain, a headache. You may get dizzy. You may feel faint. You may feel like your throat is closing up on you, like it's super tight and you have trouble swallowing. You may feel numbness in your extremities. Or you may have the feeling of surreality, meaning that you feel like you're detached from yourself. I want to reiterate that your brain has no way of distinguishing between the thoughts you're thinking and the reality which it perceives. This very principle, that your brain has no way of perceiving the difference between thought and reality, can work to your advantage, but in the case of an anxiety attack, it works to your disadvantage, because your brain can't really distinguish whether the thoughts that you are thinking are real or not real. Everything is real to the brain, so if you're thinking a thought which puts your body in panic mode, your brain at that moment doesn't stop itself and say, this is not reality. It perceives itself being in a life or death situation. So it's important for those of us who have anxiety attacks to acknowledge the fact that we're not going crazy. The body and the brain are responding in perfect accordance to what our thoughts are. I personally don't advocate any anti-anxiety medications that are available today, unless a person believes that that is the thing which will cure them, because belief is the trump card for everything. If you feel like anxiety medication is the only thing which can help you release resistance to anxiety, it's not wrong for you to go get them. But in my personal opinion, your emotions are the compass which are leading you through life. They are what's telling you whether the thought you hold resonates with your higher self and that which you truly are, or does not resonate with who you are and what you really should be doing. So why take out the compass? That's what we're doing so often nowadays in our medicinal practices, is we're basically making an enemy of the very thing which is leading us in the correct or incorrect direction. And then we wonder why our lives have become numb, and we wonder why our lives have become less than satisfactory. In order to prevent anxiety attacks, you want to avoid alcohol and avoid stimulants like coffee and like sugar. Some of us have much more sensitive systems than others. I think this is a good thing. To have a very sensitive nervous system means that you have a very, very accurate compass. It's very hard for people who are sensitive to go in the opposite direction of what is right for them. So it's not a good thing to make an enemy of a sensitive system. But it's best if you can gear your choices in life towards a diet and a lifestyle which will pacify your nervous system and nurture your nervous system. So create any kind of grounding environments for your nervous system to flourish so you're not bombarding it. Because your likelihood of having a kind of a panic attack or chronic anxiety if you're overloading it with stimulants is super, super high. Get regular exercise. I know we all harp on diet, exercise, and sleep, but exercise is really, really good for your nervous system. Joint impact releases chemicals in your brain which pacify your system. They actually have a calming effect, which is why a lot of people with anxiety disorders are addicted to exercise. Get 8 hours of sleep a day. When you are allowing yourself to go to sleep, you are releasing resistance. You are rejoining your source self perspective. And in the absence of resistance, well-being and health is allowed to flourish. It will literally cascade naturally through your body. So you are allowing yourself to reset when you allow yourself to sleep enough. Find every way you can to reduce stress in your life. Stress takes a toll on your body. It is basically at the heart of every single disorder and every single disease. If you maintain a life of stress or a focus on situations which make you feel stress, your likelihood for an anxiety attack increases exponentially. The reason is because your body is set up for the specific chemicals that are released within it. What I mean is, if you're a person who chronically feels stress, the brand new cells that are made within your body are made intact with receptor sites which are specifically designed for the neuropeptides in your body which are associated with stress. And when those receptor sites get denied of chemicals, they start to go into a crave type of situation, where they release all kinds of information about them dying and needing that same kind of chemical. So then you get into this sort of locked-in cycle where you almost need to create stress because your cells are craving the stress chemical. So if you would like to live a stress-free life, you need to start practicing living a life of non-stress to such a degree that the new cells within your body that are made come into this existence with new receptor sites which are predisposed towards emotions, the chemical version of the emotions like joy, rather than chemical emotions like stress. In order to stop an anxiety attack, you've got to find a way to get your brain to stop sending the message to your body that it's in a life or death situation. It has to stop sending the emergency message. Fear is your indication that your focus, or something you are paying attention to, is in the exact opposite direction of your desire and your well-being and your higher self. Panic and fear is one of the lowest vibrations. It's one of the most discordant vibrations in our universe. In other words, when you feel fear, your intention, which is always well-being, is colliding with your current thought or action, which holds a different resonance than that entirely. So what do we do about it? Number 1, never force yourself through the action if you're feeling a panic attack. And never try to avoid the sensation. Trying to avoid a panic attack, or trying to ignore a panic attack once it's happened and force yourself through the action that the panic attack has occurred because of, is the worst thing you can do. It will not work. So what I want you to do if you're having a panic attack is close your eyes, and I want you to take 5 very deep, deep breaths. Breathe in to the extent where you're filling your lungs entirely up to their full capacity, and then I want you to hold that breath for 8 to 10 seconds, and then release the breath. Remind yourself of what is going on. You can tell yourself, I am having a panic attack. That will help pull your brain out of the catastrophe thinking into the reality which is current, which is, I am having an anxiety attack. That's way better than thinking, I'm literally in life or death situation. Next, I want you to do something very counterintuitive. I want you to turn your focus in towards all of those sensations. Resisting the sensations will make the sensations worse, because whatever we resist persists. That's the vibrational law within this universe. So we want you to embrace and dive into the emotions and the sensations of the experience of the panic attack. It may be the very last thing you feel like doing, but it will be your key to setting free of that panic attack. When you embrace and you welcome the sensations of an anxiety attack, it changes your point of power. It's a conscious change of your attitude towards the experience, which then changes the chemicals which are released in your brain. Those sensations are there for a reason. They are meant to be acknowledged, and they must be acknowledged if the experience is to be fully processed. Begin naming what it feels like. For example, you could say, sensation. You feel heavy and stinging. You feel like metal. You feel like you're trying to eat me. I want you to name whatever sensations you are feeling within your body. Then, I want you to take it one step further. I want you to invite the feeling to become worse. Ask it to get more intense. Ask it to feel more. This step removes all remaining resistance that you have to the experience. When the fear is no longer being fed by the mental resistance, it will dissipate. What's better than that is your confidence will begin to kick in. It will tell you, guess what? You're in control of the experience rather than the experience being in control of you. Which is how panic attacks get you. They convince you that you're not in control of your own life. Then I want you to ask the sensation what it needs you to know, what it's trying to tell you. Acknowledge those feelings. And acknowledge the fact that you hear them and you feel them and you understand them. Also acknowledge that you have gratitude for them. Gratitude for the fact that your system is giving you totally accurate feedback to the thoughts that you're thinking. Then I want you to look deeply to try to identify what it was that you were focused on before having this panic attack. Once you identify it, you want to look for evidence and proof that undermines that thought that you were thinking. Then you want to begin looking for thoughts which feel better to think. So for example, if I have a fear of going on an airplane and I'm experiencing an anxiety attack as a result of being on an airplane, I want to begin to come up with as many thoughts which both undermine my thoughts which are aligned with the fear of being on an airplane and support the idea that it's an enjoyable experience and a safe experience. For example, I could think thoughts like, planes get safer and safer every single year. Or, pilots are trained specifically for any kind of emergency situation, so I am actually in good hands. Or, all you hear about on the news is the one plane that crashes and not the millions and millions and millions each month that take off with no problem. If you have problems with negative focus chronically, or you consider yourself a worrier, it's a really good idea to bring with you something called a positive aspects journal. What a positive aspects journal is basically a journal where you write down a subject. So if I have a fear of flying, I could write down flying in an airplane. And then you write an entire list of all the positives which you could think about the situation flying on an airplane. Any thought which makes you feel better. It's a really good idea if you have a chronic worrying problem and you know that you're headed towards a situation like flying and you've already made the decision that you're going to go through with it, to write down as many things like that as you can possibly focus on, so that during the experience you already have a list to look at, so you can be attuned in the get-go, right out of the gate, with positive emotions and positive sensations, rather than running the risk of spiraling downwards and getting yourself into a situation where you're experiencing a panic attack. It's impossible to have a panic attack when you're focused positively. The reason is that your emotions are your indication of the exact thought which you're holding. So if you hold a positive thought, negative emotions can't occur within your system. The reason that panic attacks feel like they're out of the blue is because we move through life in a first-person perspective. Seldom do we ever step back and really watch the thoughts that we're thinking. So often when we walk into a situation, like getting onto an airplane, we have so many negative thoughts that are rapid firing that we have no conscious awareness of. When we get hit by the panic attack, we're going, I don't know where that came from. It just came to me from nowhere, without acknowledging the thoughts which we thought leading up to that experience. Sometimes taking an action, like going someplace or meeting someone, is not in line with our well-being. That will come across as the intuitive feeling of something not being right for you. The problem is, when you have that intuition that something is not entirely right for you, often we start to pile really negative thoughts on top of it, which spiral into fear and spiral into panic attacks. So once you go through these steps that I've outlined, and you pull yourself out of the catastrophic thinking, you can find that place which is your thought stasis. And once you're in that thought stasis, you can distinguish whether that action is correct for you or whether the action is wrong for you. Once you have pulled those thoughts of fear away from the very root, which is usually an action that you're thinking about taking, you can ask yourself, is this action right or is this action wrong for me individually? Is this action in line with my highest good? If the answer is yes, then you want to try to pull your thought into vibrational alignment with the decision you've just made. If you make any decision, you want to start thinking thoughts which line up totally with that decision, so you don't experience any opposition and any resistance. If the answer is no, it's not right for me, then don't do it. You cannot expect yourself to do something and just get used to it. It's not going to happen. You can't be living a happy life while simultaneously going upstream all the time in your life. Fearful thoughts can be like weeds which grow around a flower which represents something which is right for you to do or think or be in this life. Sometimes, fearful thoughts can be like weeds which grow around a poisonous mushroom. The poisonous mushroom, of course, representing things which are not good for you to do and be and have and all of that in this lifetime. But the fearful thoughts, which are the weeds, have to be cleared away first for you to decide whether that thing which the fearful thoughts are obscuring is right for you or is wrong for you. You never want to take action until you take the step to clear those weeds, clear the fearful thoughts off of whatever subject you have been thinking about. You always know what's right or wrong for you. You always hold the power to focus positively or focus on something which causes you to feel negative emotion. I promise you, as debilitating as panic attacks are, it is totally within your power to be able to stop them when they occur. And they can bring very valuable insight into your life and get you in touch with what is really right for you.